Mhm. That shooting star always catches me at the end. Always catches my eye at the corner.
Yep.
Hey, happy Sunday morning to you.
And happy Saturday morning, afternoon,
Eve, yeah,
evening for
evening.
you.
It's dinner time. It's like 6 o'clock here.
Mm,
Although I just, to be honest, I just got up a little while ago. More like brekkie for me, but
I got up twice.
yeah, you got up before I did and after I did, right? Like,
Yep.
yes, it was like you disappeared. You like, I was like, what? I knew you were back asleep. You know what? It was very tempting. It was a great morning for sleeping, and I'm glad
Mm,
that I did because I feel very energized for this stream. Um,
mm-hmm.
you might. Nobody needs an energized band, believe me, on a weekend, but I do. I'm looking forward to this one. It's all about leadership and leadership styles and something I can relate to.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how do you want to start? Hmm.
Shall we start with the quotes?
Okay, let me bring up our fancy dancy. There we go. And get to the first one. Chapter starts with, well, you're going to read the story. Shall I do the quote for you then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Oh,
all
we
about
should we should let people know this is chapter 6.
it
Lead
is
from the front.
lead from the
Of
front, chapter 6. Yes.
authority.
See, too much. Like my coffee's fresh. Too much coffee too quick. Yeah. Chapter 6, 50th law. For those of you that are following along or would like to, there is actually a PDF in the description of the YouTube video. That's free for everybody. But anyway, lead from the front. Authority. In any group,
Mm-hmm.
the person on top, consciously or unconsciously, sets the tone. If leaders are fearful, hesitant to take any risks, or overly concerned for their ego and reputation, then this invariably filters its way through the entire group and makes effective action impossible. Complaining and haranguing people to work harder has a counterproductive effect. You must adopt the opposite style. Imbue your troops with proper spirit through your actions, not words. They see you working harder than anyone, holding yourself to the highest standards, taking risks with confidence, and making tough decisions. This inspires and bonds the group together. In these democratic times, you must practice what you preach. Hell, hell.
And that is definitely more apt, even more apt for this time in
Yes,
our
yeah. Absolutely one of the
situation.
reasons when you brought this to me, what was one of the first things I had said? This is so relative for now. This
Absolutely.
translates to our current conditions. All the chapters have had information that people can turn into something useful, a useful tool or a useful notion or an ability, a skill to navigate our very tumultuous times, chaotic times, I would say, um, in almost every industry, economically, politically, you know,
Socially, just every
socially,
way.
everywhere, everywhere. Okay. So the chapter then starts off as they normally do with a quote about going into the story and about, in this case, leadership or, taking authority. In this one, they always call it the Hustler King, like meaning coming from 50s perspective. So this is Robert Greene explaining 50s perspective in the story. So no man can properly command an army from the rear. He must be at the front, at the very head of the army. He must be seen there, and the effect of his mind and personal energy must be felt by every officer and man present with it. General William T. Sherman. So they set the stage, and we turn the keys over to you, sir, for the story.
Okay. Now I actually find it kind of interesting that the story always starts sort of before it always jumps back from to the past, then moves forward. So we're going all the way back to the spring of 91. Um, a young Curtis Jackson had proved himself to be of the savviest sorry. A young Curtis Jackson had proved himself to be one of the savviest hustlers in the neighborhood. His pool of repeat customers had increased to a point where he had to hire his own crew to keep up with their demand, already showing that he has capabilities of being a leader. But as he knew, nothing good ever lasted too long in the hood. Just as Curtis was making plans to expand his business, an older hustler named Wayne began to make threatening gestures towards him. Wayne had recently returned to the streets from prison. He was determined to make as much money as fast as possible and then dominate the local drug trade. Curtis, it seemed, was his main rival. He tried to intimidate the young hustler, warning him that he better curtail his operations or pay a price. Curtis ignored him. Then Wayne decided to up the ante. He sent out word on the street that he was going to have Curtis killed. Curtis had seen this happen before, and he knew what would happen next. Wayne would never do the job himself. He could not risk a return to prison. Instead, he was banking on the fact that some young kid would hear of his desire to kill Curtis and, eager to gain some street credibility, would take it upon himself to do the dirty work. Sure enough, a few days after hearing of Wayne's intentions, Curtis noticed a young kid named Nitty trailing him on the streets. He felt certain that Nitty was the one planning to do his hit, and it would happen soon.
Can you imagine, like, You're smart enough to know what's going on, but like you're smart enough to know what's going on. Imagine the pressure in
It
this
it
environment. Yeah.
it would be so nerve wracking. The the impulse to act as quickly as possible must have been so strong.
The, one of the things I find most impressive about 50 is his ability to hold back his patience, to wait for the right moment, like to think.
And to know when the right moment is,
Yeah, because
that's the hardest skill.
it's such a juxtaposition from his personality type. He's aggressive, he's forward, he's like bam, bam, but he's actually a great thinker first. You don't get to see any of that until you see the action and not realize what all went into it before. It's a
Actually, do you think he might actually do you think it might have been just an appearance that he put forward that he was this aggressive type? Because when you think about it, he has been more or less calculating.
this is amazing. This like you know what I was you read my mind, don't you? Because I woke up this morning thinking, all right, the first thought was Rekkr's gonna kill me because now I want to do nurture versus nature versus nurture, because 50 is an oxymoron. He's a walking oxymoron. That's
Mm,
exactly what I thought this morning. And here you are, you bring it up. I think that he knows that it is absolutely a survival instinct to wear the mask of the great thug in the
mm,
environment he grew up. But this man is a philosopher. This man is a great thinker. This man could actually just use words and stuff to get himself out of trouble if he had to. But because of the environment he's in, he kind of has to do the other first. Like
mm,
that has to be the persona. But the man behind the persona is a lot deeper than it. And
mm.
this actual book itself shows you that um thugs can be great thinkers too.
Yeah,
Gangsters are not fluff. You know what I mean? It's just that there's
especially the older
a lot
ones.
more to it, a lot more to it, in that he's actually used every bit of information he could. He's like a sponge of he's always craving knowledge, he's always learning from everything, and he's turned it into a survival skill, and that's what he's trying to impart to everybody in this book. That was what Robert Greene tapped into when he met him.
Mm,
Not just the survivor story that he got out of, where he was, but the man himself is an enigma of
yes.
that people can learn from, like these adversities. Like, we don't have to grow up in the hood to have adversities, okay? I mean,
No.
no, everybody has them to some degree, and it's like a roadmap onto, that doesn't have to define you. That doesn't have to be the only thing you show the world. That doesn't have to be how you move in the world for the rest of your life. The adversity
Exactly.
or what happened to you or where you came from, the you know we can change it,
Of course.
you know oh, but
And
let me let you finish the story. But anyway, stop reading my mind, Rekkr. You're not going to want to stay in there very long, I promise you. Get out. Get out.
hello.
Danger, 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 Will Robinson. Like, oh my God. Centigrade
Okay.
is a thing.
This was a depressing dynamic. This was the depressing dynamic of hustling in the hood. The more success a hustler had, the more he attracted the wrong kind of attention. Unless he inspired some fear and terror, rivals would keep coming at him, trying to take what he had and continually threatening his position on the streets. Once that started to happen, the once successful dealer would find himself drawn into a cycle of violence, reprisals, and time in the pen.
Mm.
There were a few hustlers, however, who had somehow managed to rise above this dynamic. In the hood, they were like kings. Just hearing their names or seeing them on the street would elicit a gut reaction, a mix, would elicit a gut reaction, a mix of fright and admiration. What elevated them above others was a series of actions they had taken in the past that demonstrated that they were fearless and smart. Their maneuvers would be unpredictable and all the more terrifying for it. If people thought of challenging them, they would quickly they would they would quickly remember what these types had done in other circumstances and back off. All of this would give them an aura of power and mystery. Instead of challenges on all sides, they would have disciples ready to follow them as far as they wanted. If Curtis saw himself as the kingly type, it was it was time now to show it to others as dramatically as possible.
That's the thing about the great story or the big rumor that
Mm.
how to craft it, keep it out there.
As long, yeah, uh, if you can maintain almost a unpredictable mystery about yourself, then
Mm-hmm.
people will always be, uh, I guess you could say, in, I I can't think of the word now,
Encapsulate? No. What do you think?
encapsulated by them,
Yeah.
enraptured
Well,
by you,
enraptured. Okay.
fascinated. Yeah.
Fascinated. There you go. But here's the thing: you think about all of our famous figureheads, or just anybody who's famous that you can think of. Like, there's a story that got that there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a story you remember about it that keys you into the person. And the
Mm.
trick is to craft that story to be what you want to be remembered. Like, they want to be feared. They want people not challenging them, so they need a good incident or thing for people to remember about it, so that it's associated with them.
As well as having, as well as having a the perception that they're still moving forward in their story,
Mm-hmm.
that there's
Yep.
still more to see.
Exactly. Mystery. Hmm.
Mm. So, with death staring him in the face, he worked to control his emotions and thought long and hard about the dilemma that Wayne had posed. If he came after Wayne to kill him first, Wayne would be ready and would have his perfect excuse to kill Curtis in self defense. If instead he went after Nitty and killed him, the police would catch Curtis and he would end up in prison for a long time. An equally fortunate result for Wayne. And if he did nothing, Nitty would finish him off. But Wayne's strategy had a fatal flaw. His fear of doing his fear of doing the job with his own hands. He was no king himself, but just another frightened hustler pretending to be tough. Curtis would come after him from an unexpected angle and turn everything around. Without wasting any more time, he asked a member of his crew named Tony to accompany him him that afternoon. Together they surprised Nitty on the street, and while Tony held him, Curtis slashed the kid in the face with a razor
Ooh.
blade. He did it just deep enough to send him screaming to the hospital and to leave a nice scar for a while. Then, a few hours later, he and Tony found Wayne's empty car and shot it up. An ambiguous message that meant either they hoped he was inside or that they were taunting him to come out and attack them in the open. A much different approach than what I would in I would like I wouldn't have
It's
even thought of
actually
that. It's
it's a twofer. It's
mm,
restrained, but it's bold also. Like,
mm,
it's hands on for sure. They're not going to be
mm-hmm,
saying like someone associated with 50 did this. They're going to be like 50 did this. Like,
yep,
Um but it's also restrained to where he didn't put himself at risk, which is this is what fascinates me about him. How freaking clever and smart. Like,
Yeah,
does he want to go to jail over what they're pressing him to do? Absolutely not. That's going to interfere with what he wants to do. He tries to solve the problem while keeping his goal in mind all the time, which is to get out of
exactly.
there and get into the music business and, leave all this behind. He just wants to make money. And, he has to get out of there with his life to be able to do it
Mm-hmm.
and not in jail. Like, he's already been there once, right? He don't want to go
Exactly.
back.
And he used a very calculated approach. Like, uh, in the streets, death is kind of a given. It's something
Mm,
to be expected.
it is.
So people don't put as much weight on death as others.
Mm-hmm. No.
But if you, I guess in this case, maim someone, that's another story. That's someone
No.
has lived to tell the tale of what could happen. So
And
now
they're
there's unpredictability.
walking around with it. Like, the guy doesn't even have to say it. Every time people see that scar, they know the story. The story just keeps propagating itself forever as long as he's alive, walking around with that scar on his face.
And the
Right?
thing is, he actually worked quite smart because more often than not, a story, your basic story will start off simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then as it propagates, it's like telephone.
Oh yeah.
Continually, the story will change, and you know that Nitty probably exaggerated it to make it
Oh,
seem like he was tougher
oh,
than.
it was a death battle. He barely got away with his life. He's lucky
Yep,
all he has is his scar. Exactly. Like, yeah,
yep,
oh, and kind of you should see the other guy. I messed up his Nikes for sure.
mm-hmm,
Like, I bled all over his Air Jordans. He's got to throw
yep,
those away. No, I mean, I don't mean to make light of it, but I do need to do a disclaimer. We are not promoting violence here.
no,
This happened, and we're talking about it, but we don't actually advocate that this is how you should solve your problems. Absolutely
definitely
not.
not.
There's always a better way than laying hands on anybody. Okay.
Mm,
This is just a factual story that happened that's being relayed in a historical context to make a point. Okay. We can't change the facts, but doesn't mean we advocate for it. Okay.
exactly.
Yeah. Thank you for giving me the moment to say that. Carry on, Rick. I like
the
my little YouTube channel. I want to keep it here.
Yeah, I like it too. I like it too.
I have to say, as you were talking about what he did, I could just like visualize YouTube going, "Boop, take it right, yellow. Okay, we're heading red any second now, danger zone." But I'm ready to fight after. Let's go.
Yeah. The following day, the dominoes fell just as Curtis thought they would. Nitty sought out Wayne, expecting that the two of them would go together to exact revenge on Curtis. After all, Wayne had been attacked as well. Wayne, however, still insisted the kid do it alone. Now, Nitty could see through the game. He was just a patsy to do the dirty work, and Wayne was not as tough as he had made himself out to be. Nitty would have nothing to do with him, but he was also too afraid to take on Curtis by himself. He decided he could live with the scar, and that's exactly where he would have started to create more and more fantastical stories to make it
Mm-hmm.
seem like it's a brave thing that he got the scar,
Mm-hmm.
that he wasn't pissing himself while they were basically probably
Yeah, well,
torturing him.
he survived an altercation with 50. Yeah.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Wayne was now in a delicate position. If he asked someone else to do the job, it would start to look like what it was, a man too scared to do it himself. Better let the whole thing just go away. In the days to come, the hood was abuzz with the story of what happened. Young Curtis had outmaneuvered and outsmarted the older rival. Unlike the latter, he was unafraid to do the violence himself. What he had done was bold and dramatic. It had come out of nowhere. Every time people would see Nitty on the streets with the long scar on his face, they were reminded of the incident.
Mm-hmm.
Rivals would now have to think twice before challenging his status. He showed he was tough and crafty, and those in his crew were duly impressed with his sangfroid,
Sangfroid, yes. Sangfroid.
which, for those that don't know, means cool, essentially to have a cool demeanor.
Too cool for school, people. Like
Mm.
over the top. Like I know that's a very old-fashioned saying, but that's what I think of. It means composure or coolness,
Hmm.
mostly excessive composure or coolness, as shown in danger or under trying circumstances, like unnervingly cool. Like you're gonna notice.
Exactly.
But that stopped us dead yesterday, sang Freud. Hail to the language king, Robert Greene. Thank you very much. Throw that in there. Okay.
Exactly. Anyway,
Yeah.
and those in his crew were duly impressed with his sangfroid and how he had turned the situation around. They now saw him differently, as someone who could last in the jungle and was worth following. Curtis followed this up with other similar actions, and slowly he elevated himself above the other hustlers. Now there were younger ones who looked up to him and would soon form the core of the devoted band of disciples who would help him in his transition into music. So that is pretty much leading by example in a way.
Yeah.
He is essentially created a person who is moving somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Now, now, just to give a little foretell here, there are two stories here that we're going to go over. And the chapter is designed, Robert Greene has cleverly laid it out, to be both stories to be examples of two types of leadership, which is front or rear leadership. Now, they're advocating for front. What kind? We'll get into it afterwards, but keep in mind because there's two stories that basically we're going to go back and talk on those two topics because the first story is rough. The second
Mm,
story is genius. Like I don't know. Talk about in one man. This is the multifacetedness of 50 Cent. In one man,
mm-hmm.
he embodies all of it. I can see why Robert Greene was fascinated and why this book happened.
Yep,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. Would you like to carry on with the stories?
I will. After the success of his first album in 2003, Curtis, now known as 50 Cent, began to realize his dream of forging a business empire. But as this took shape in the months and years to follow, he began to feel that something was wrong. It would be natural to believe that with his current position and fame, those working for him would simply follow his lead and do what he wanted. But his whole life had been a lesson in the opposite. People continually take from you. They doubted your powers and challenged you. In this environment, his executives and managers were not trying to take uh, his money or his life, but rather he had the feeling they were nibbling away at his power, trying to soften his image and make him more corporate and predictable. If he let this go on, he would lose the only quality that made him different, his propensity to take risks and do the unexpected. He might become a safe investment, but he would no longer be a leader and a creative force. In this world, you cannot relax and rest on your name, your past achievements, your title. You have to fight to impose your difference and compel people to follow your lead. All of these thoughts became painfully clear to him in the summer of '07. His third album, Curtis, was to be released in September of that year, and everyone seemed to be asleep. The record label, Interscope, was acting as if the album would sell itself. His management team had put together a marketing campaign that that he felt was too tame, passive, and corporate. They were trying to control too much. Then one August afternoon, an employee at G-Unit Records, 50's own label within Interscope, told him that a video from the upcoming album somehow just got leaked to the internet. If it spread, it would mess up the carefully orchestrated rollout of songs that had been planned for that month. 50 was the first to hear of this, and after contemplating what to do next, he decided it was finally time to shake up the dynamic, do the unpredictable, and play the part of the hustler king. He called into his office his radio and internet team at G-Unit. Instead of working to contain the viral spread of the video, the usual response to such a problem, and what management would advocate, he ordered them to surreptitiously leak it to other sites and let it spread like wildfire, just like before.
Yeah, just like the rumor mill. Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
just like when he was pushing his older songs,
Yep.
he would basically get people to download it and share it around.
Yep. He learned to use piracy in that people want something free in the underground market to his advantage. Yep. Both times. Yeah.
On top of this move, they created the following story to tell journalists for public consumption. When 50 heard of the leak, he flew into a wild rage. He threw his phone at the window with such force he cracked it. He tore the plasma TV off the wall and smashed it into pieces. He left the building in a fit, and the last thing they heard him yelling was that he was shutting it all down and going on vacation. That
Anybody
evening
remember that? Do you remember that hitting the news? I do.
I do. I do remember that. It was wild.
It was like a TMZ thing, it was in Rolling Stone. It was in a few things. Maybe
It hit.
Mrs. Cassandra follows rap sometimes. Maybe she remembers, but yeah,
Mm,
50. Yeah, that was like, what is that crazy man doing now? Nobody can contain this man. Raw talent and brutality. Right?
yeah. Every like every everywhere pretty much heard of it. It
Mhm.
I it was sort of mainstream news.
Well, that's what they wanted. That's how they pushed it out. It was great. But
Mm,
to find out later it was all manufactured, I was
mm,
shocked. I was shocked. Yeah. Because I believed
genius
it.
though.
It kind of
Mm,
went along with his everything else he had put out there with his personality,
mm,
hard gangster, not taking anybody else's crap. So
yep.
yeah. He just seemed like he was always in a pressure cooker.
The I remember feeling a little bit like, oh, are we gonna see him crash out? Is the next thing we're gonna hear about him that he's murdered someone?
Yeah, or he's in jail or whatever. Like, yo, there goes the
Mm,
end of a nice career. Like that couldn't last in that pressure cooker, because he was he was always so volatile and everything like that. He made it quite evident where he
keep
came from
yeah, keeping that
already.
appearance.
With that first album and everything, and then the story, and now to be doing this after he gets a contract and everything. I mean, of course, you're thinking, "Oh man, th- this is not going to go good." Well,
Exactly.
but it was the opposite. It was
And
like, yeah,
it also created that sort of driving force once again, like what's going to happen. You then had to pretty
yeah,
much follow it. You wanted to
yeah,
know what was happening next.
yeah. If following was a thing, because like back then we didn't have it like we do now. You like Instagram, Twitter. You follow everybody. You get all the updates like right away. But yeah, he would
Mm,
have increased his followers by millions after that because
mm,
everybody would want to know what is he going to do next. Like, whoa, like I need to know about this. It would be on threads. They'd be following.
oh, it would
For
be
news alerts.
everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah, definitely.
Okay. That evening, on 50's orders, they had the maintenance man for the building take pictures of the damage, all faked for this purpose and then leaked the photos to the internet. They were to keep all of this a secret. Not even management was to know that this drama was completely manufactured. The days to come, 50 watched watched with satisfaction as this story spread everywhere. Interscope was awakened from its slumber. Management was sent the message that he was now in command. If he refused to do any more publicity, as he had threatened, their whole campaign was doomed. They had to follow his lead. They had to follow his lead here and let him set the tone for the publicity, which meant something more aggressive and fluid among 50's executives and employees. Word spread quickly of what had supposedly happened. His reputation for being unpredictable and violent brought to life. When they now saw him in the office, they felt a twinge of fear. Better to pay attention to what he wanted than risk witnessing his anger. And for the public, this was just the kind of story they expected from a thug rapper. It compelled their attention. They could laugh at they could laugh at his out of control antics, not realizing it was 50 directing the drama who would have the last laugh.
And he got control of his whole management team. He's keeping them in the dark, and so now they think they have a problem they have to deal with. He woke
Yeah.
their butts up. They're like, danger, like warning, like things are going bad. We've got to get control of this situation. He just like snapped them to attention and made himself the problem they have to deal with. It's great. That guy's a
Mm-hmm.
twofer. That is just, yeah, it's quite clever. Quite clever, this man.
It's the thing that I find really fascinating is excuse me the way he's continued to take control
Mm-hmm.
even when he's the underdog. He
Exactly.
does just enough to like make people realize that he does that they don't really have the control that they might think they have over him, but not so much as to make them go, whoa, okay, we need to get rid of him. He's too much. We can't handle this. This is
Yep.
he's always maintained a positive value proposition on his name.
Mm-hmm. And he says it like even in the quote, which is relative to both of his stories here. In the book they always break it down to the fearless approach, and then they go on to the keys to fearlessness, which are like breaking down the modules or the steps or the types, so to speak. But for the fearless approach, his own quote just says it. When I reached the
Mm-hmm.
top in business, I adjusted to my new position. I became bolder and crazier than before, and I listened even less to people who tried to slow me down. Like, nope, he did it his way. Like, he knew he wanted to keep on top and fresh. And it's, if you think about our other lessons in realism, opportunity, when to be aggressive, it's all like right there. He picked his
Mm.
moment. Do I be passive aggressive or do I be forward aggressive? This was full
Mm-hmm.
on aggressive, right? Like the
Yep.
first one was full on aggressive. The second one was a bit passive aggressive. And the reason I say that, even though it was physical and violent and like it was behind the scenes manipulation to get his goal. No
It.
one knew what was really going on. And that's the key to passive aggressive, right? No one
Mm.
really knows what you're saying or doing. You're making moves and doing stuff and setting things in motion, but nobody actually knows what it is. That, it wasn't like full in your face. This is the deal. He
Mm.
totally, like, right? You know,
He he rode that line perfectly.
and
Just the right amount of balance.
mhm. And didn't he also show the ability to look for the opportunity, keeping his eyes open, reality
Mm-hmm.
of the situation? He did the realism thing, the reality of the situation. Head out,
Mm-hmm.
took appraisal of everything that was going on, all of the options, everything. Then chose the opportunities that presented themselves, like this guy putting a hit on him. Let me turn that let me turn that to an opportunity to actually make my play and protect myself, which he did with Wayne.
Mm. Let me
Then
turn
the
this negative into
mhm,
a positive.
same thing with the video leak.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hey, that's a negative. Like that, my whole campaign, I just wasted millions of dollars on a campaign I can't use now because it's out there. Let me turn that and turn that negative into a positive where I'm actually going to get all that money back and then some. Right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's like every time you read me a story from this book, which by the way, thank you, because I love to listen to you read. And I think it's really important to hear 50 stories in regards
Mm.
to this because that's what's inspired Robert Greene to do this. But then I
Exactly.
in the stories, I'm already thinking about the other chapters and like, oh yeah, there's this. Oh yeah, there's him just embodying every single step that we've come to so far, everything that we've covered as far as the realism and opportunism and being in the moment, grabbing that moment, learning your aggressive style, when to be bad, like
Yep.
last week we learned when to be bad. And this
Adapting
one,
to the changes.
yep, this one, oh, changes, right? Of survival and adaptability. And then
Mm-hmm.
and now we're up to the point where leadership skills, like when do you take the ball and run with it, like and when you do, how do
How do
you
you
get
do it?
how do you do it, right?
Mm.
Yeah. So that brings us to the next part, to which is the two the two types of leading from the front or leading from the back, and what is the actual difference in the two of those and how they like relate to the story. Do you want to read
Yes.
one of them? You want to flip a coin?
Do we have a coin?
No. That noise was me flipping.
Oh,
It's it.
okay.
It's it. We don't have a. That was my thumb. We do not have a coin. Jeez.
Okay. So, leading from the front, take visible risks alongside the team. So that's sort of like, would you say, even though, even though you would be the leader, you sort of bring people along at and help them to feel at the same level as you.
Well, when he brought Tony to deal with Nitty,
Mm.
here he is. He's the head guy, but he's bringing somebody along, making him part of his team, showing him trust, showing him respect in his abilities, showing him that he has confidence in him, helping him become part of the story because
Mm-hmm.
he didn't just secure his own safety in the neighborhood. He just secured Tony's too.
Exactly. So now
In
Tony is seen as being closer to that inner circle that 50 has, or
Mhm.
at least that
Yeah.
is perceived that he is, that people perceive he has, um, which would give Tony a level
Mhm.
of protection.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't you want to be protected by the most, I guess, in this story, the most dangerous person in the hood at that point?
Yeah. I mean, if I was in the hood, sure. Mm.
Mm.
I think, in my regular life, I don't know if I could fit 50 Cent into my regular life.
Yeah, might be a
I
little
don't.
bit
It might be a little rough. I
mm,
just, I, his music, yes, and we have great conversations about it, but, but if I was in the hood, yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah.
exactly. And then sets the tone through direct example,
Yes,
just
that was,
like
that
being
was
willing
direct.
to do it
Yeah.
with what they did to Nettie.
Yeah, it goes hand in hand with that building trust because he,
And what I actually realized and noticed is that 50 wasn't the one to hold him down
mm-mm,
and have his friend cut his face. 50 was the one that cut his face. It
mm-hmm,
showed 50 was setting the tone and the example by saying, "Hey, look, I don't need someone to do the work for me. I'm doing it.
That
I'm
goes
willing to do it.
goes right with the third bullet. Because doing that
Mm,
shows you're the one on the front line. You're willing to take the risk. You're willing to do. You're not asking anybody to do anything you wouldn't do.
yep.
It,
And
that.
that goes with the fourth. It leads into the
Mm-hmm,
fourth one. It inspires the people around him to take action,
mm-hmm,
to I ride his wave of energy and even feed off of it,
yep.
which is a powerful thing.
Mm-hmm, yep.
And and he, I mean, a lot of these fit with him. Acts decisively in
Mm-hmm.
uncertain moments. It it takes a lot of it takes a lot to be able to um, make a solid decision in that kind of pressure cooker environment. Let alone make one as rational as what he did. Like, as we don't advise doing that,
Yeah, no,
obviously.
story
But
no, number one is a bit violent. Like, I really don't, but I mean,
yeah,
it solved his problem, and I don't even think he's advocating for the violence. I think he found it necessary, but
mm,
I appreciate his honesty and his unapologetic retelling of his stories. He doesn't clean them up. He doesn't make them politically correct.
mm,
He says, "Chomp on this snowflake, like deal with it."
yep,
It's like in an uncomfortable manner, but I appreciate it. I would rather have the genuine, real reality of the situation in the real story in how he did
exactly.
it instead of trying to clean it up like he was some kind of like
Mm.
saint because he wasn't. Yeah. But,
And then using charisma to and momentum to drive progress.
mm-hmm.
I mean, I imagine that he did use a lot of charm and charisma when he
Mm-hmm.
brought the people, his team around him, to take action on the leak and to actually
Yep.
capitalize on it.
Yes. And if any when you talk about his charisma, that man has a smile, like when he smiles, but it's also a bit unnerving. It takes you off guard. It looks like, he's very pleased, he's happy, and you want to smile back. But there's just something to it that
There's
just
an edge
unnerves the
of
hell.
danger to it.
There's,
Like
yes,
like
but yeah,
you know he's packing. You know
yeah,
he
yeah.
got that he
But
got
then
that stick on him.
you're surprised about his choice of words when he does interviews, in when he
Mm,
actually has real conversations that you actually can get clips of. He could be very well spoken, and he's very good at putting his idea into words. And that always takes me back. I expect him to come out like, and he does sometimes talk the talk, when he's walking the
mm,
walk in his promos. But occasionally you get a glimpse of what he might be like sitting home having dinner, like dinner conversation. Like,
mm,
I would like to sit at a table and have a meal with this man, a real conversation, not like
mm-hmm,
one of his gangster promos for his albums, but a real conversation. And occasionally you get that in there, and I'm always taken aback by his elegant use of words.
exactly.
He can be really well spoken when he chooses to be. But that brings us to the other type, leading from the back,
Mm-hmm,
which is kind of the opposite, but not. And this would actually relate more to, I mean, I personally think leading from the front is all story one. Like, that's perfect example, story one. As you went through the bullets, you could pull from story one, right?
mm,
Story two is more about leading from the back, observing dynamics before acting. He saw the situation, influencing through subtle control and suggesting, figuring out how to manipulate the system, getting everybody on board, not letting people know what he's doing, setting
mm,
things in motion. Remain ready to lead from the front when necessary, which is important. Like, he had to take the reins, so he's in total
mm,
control here, but nobody knows it. Do you know what I mean? That's the thing. He's kind of taking control of the whole situation, which is a lead from the front thing, but he's not letting you know about it.
mm.
I mean, the people closest to him do because they're helping, but even then, he doesn't let them know the whole story.
Yeah.
Protects
And
authority. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
it, and it and I think it's just as it's giving that impression, even though he was leading from the back, that he was actually in fact leading from the front. Like
Mm-hmm.
he was the one taking the action, even
Mm-hmm.
though what he essentially did was lead from the back in the second story.
True. True. And I think that's a good thing to actually like put out there. No one does just one. It's
No.
always a mix, and we're going to get into the different roles later, but it's always a mix of the two, and you can see which is stronger and which is more. So when we talk about story one being more leading from the front, we're saying the majority of it, the the
Mm,
the the most influence seems to be, most of it in the telling of it seems to be leading from the front, most of the
yeah.
points that you could take, because there's an element of both in everything, you know. But in the second story it's more leading from the back because he kept everything close to the vest and didn't let
Yeah.
everybody know what was going on, and he was manipulating the situation exquisitely to his own ends
Exactly.
here.
Yes.
um protects authority by remaining above the chaos. In other words, he's walked away. This is the brilliant part. Gets all those pictures like he's like in a total fit, and then walks away and leaves them all to deal with it. The total like chaotic, like whatever, to get them on board and to get them to do what they need to do. He just like, nope, and he remained totally in control at that point because he wasn't part of solving their problem for them, which was the management of him, which was correcting and trying to figure out what he's going to do next. Like, I thought that part was pretty good. Like, he kind of like walked away from it, like, yeah, I did this, and he's just like, yep, walked away
Yep.
from it. Yep, let them figure it out first, and then he comes in. And that's where thinking long term, playing that power game strategically. He had it all mapped out ahead of time
Mm,
before he did anything. Before he did anything, he had it all figured. Um, but at the same time, leading from the back empowers others to feel ownership to rise, shaping them as allies. The ones that worked with him to do this, they have like risen up in his esteem and their esteem of him and their skills, okay, in being able to manage it. The ones that he helps to get things like the people that he brings into his inner circle to help get the pirated music out there, to help get a story out there, to help lay the foundation to some of his most devious plots. You know,
mm-hmm.
he is building a very loyal team around him. um,
Yeah.
but at but at the same time building them but keeping them at just the distance that they never know what to expect from him, that he's still leading, you
Mm-hmm.
know. I'm with you, we're all the same, but I'm the boss. Like, he does that very well, you
He
know.
does.
Yeah, and that's key
Giving
to
them,
leading from the back, is still to be the leader. Like,
yeah,
you're part of the
giving
group.
them just enough autonomy
Hmm.
to do what is necessary, but like staying in the right amount of control.
Hmm. Yep. Well, good night, Sin. Oh,
Yeah, that's in.
yep. Okay, so those were perfect examples with the story, but now we can actually break. They want to break it down even more. They want to start
Yes.
talking about the models of leadership and real types, leadership types, besides front and back. Then we add on four different models when we talk about the keys to leadership. You know how it says the keys to fearlessness in every chapter? Well, this
Mm-hmm.
would be the four types, breaking down and giving examples of them and what the key elements of each one is. So, do you want to start with the first one?
Yep. So the visionary leads with bold ideas and long term direction, sees opportunity where others see chaos, inspires through imagination and future focus. Just like, well, what 50 did. And
Exactly.
the and well, examples that we have chosen are Steve Jobs envisioned revolutionary tech before the market was ready and shaped culture through innovation. And something else that I think is important to bear in mind with Steve Jobs in particular is that he it wasn't it was far enough ahead that people were captured by what he was doing, but not so far enough ahead that it was alien. Because you always hear about people who come along who are uh, they people will often say, "Oh, he was ahead of his time," or he laid the foundations for XYZ person um to carve the path. And Steve Jobs came out at just the right time that the foundations for Apple products and cell
Hmm.
phones in particular to
Hmm.
come onto the market. And he pushed it just far enough to show people what could be done without
Hmm.
making it so far ahead that it was incomprehensible.
And we purposely chose two examples to go along with the one in the book. The one in the book uses Thomas Alva Edison, who we all think of as a great visionary and a person of ideas, almost even an inventor. But actually, Thomas Alva Edison took other people's ideas and moved them forward as a
It,
visionary. He
yep,
saw the opportunity in those ideas. The same as Jobs when it comes to taking the actual acquirement from his partner, Steve Wojcicki, okay, to create Apple, and Elon Musk, because Tesla was not his idea, okay,
exactly.
all right, in other things that he has done. Not even PayPal. I believe he had part of writing the code, but I think he got that from other people too. It's kind of like a
Yeah,
Facebook,
I think
you know,
he grabbed.
all the way along. It doesn't take away from their visionary status as leaders of recognizing the opportunity, taking those opportunities, acquiring them, and turning them into something else. That's a
Mm,
talent and a gift and a true leadership model there. But I do like to point out that as far as the original idea, they are not the inventors, the scientists, or the creators of these things. These are the marketing and manipulation of these ideas.
they
They
took
needed to see the 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 opportunity of it. They needed to see where it could be in the future. They needed to see what it could develop into, which makes them the visionary, right?
they took the ideas, used their marketing knowledge to make it palatable and marketable
Mm-hmm.
to the wider audience. I mean, look at what happened with Tesla. They were essentially the first people to make a production electric vehicle, and that essentially pushed every car company to have hybrid and
Mm-hmm.
electric vehicles just because they felt like they would be falling behind.
Exactly. So it was revolutionary that way by pushing the technology into the market. And but it's also a cautionary tale of how things can go wrong when the visionary takes control of an idea and gets over inserted in it, because he took the idea of revolutionizing the electric car a little bit farther. To Elon's point was to make it available to everybody, to make it common, make it the standard, okay, and in doing that the product changed and it became uh, less of a product, so to speak.
Mm,
In order to make it available to everybody, let's be honest, production costs have to go down. Materials
yep.
changed, formats changed, the prototype changed, the prototype of Tesla changed, and we
Mm-hmm.
got what we have now. And so it could be a cautionary tale also, in the fact that if you over insert yourself into the idea of a good product, just go to realize that it's going to change. You've got to be prepared for all of that, because you can't market it as cutting edge, innovative, safe, and all of this, and then change it to standard mass produced and going to be making money on
Mm.
it. They
Even
don't
though,
work at the same time, okay?
yeah,
Because
even though it was, even though the goal was essentially to make it mass produced
hmm
and and that he still made it seem like it was uh
cutting it, yeah,
cutting edge and like um he created a false sense of scarcity. He created false scarcity. It was
yeah,
like a rare thing to see a Tesla
hmm
driving on the road, and
and
a lot of people, it captured them because you see a Tesla on the road and you know
yeah, but
that vehicle doesn't have an engine, doesn't have a petrol engine in it.
mhm. And that part's still there, but it did lead to backlash in forward of like by putting a perception out that it was cutting edge and rare, kind of equated to quality and top end to people, even though he didn't say
Yes,
it. Okay. And so then when you get the end product and it's got all of these issues, you're like, I've been
I
duped.
from what I've seen, when it
I mean,
comes when people have had honest opinions about what a Tesla vehicle is like, they've said it feels cheap.
it does. And we've seen that. We watched bumpers fall off. We've watched like just going over a bump, like a speed bump, and doors falling. Like I've seen the videos, and I don't think some of them are staged. I'll get it. I fall for the
Yeah.
staged one. People may know, like, Elon Musk is not really one of my favorite um celebrities, so to speak. He's
Mm,
out there. I think he does a lot of damage, but I mean, he had the idea, he had the vision to bring this forward, and it was partially successful. But it's a cautionary tale of when you involve yourself too much. I mean, most people dealing with Elon Musk and his companies and all it eventually gets to the point where, let's be honest, the board of every single company he's with is trying to get rid of him at some point. Like,
yep.
so the visionary needs to, once you stay in the visionary role, you're probably fine. But when you try to change that role into something else during the process, it could be an issue.
Mm,
Which is the only thing I could say about Musk, But
yeah.
you can't take the visionary away from him. He definitely has a knack for seeing technologies that could be more or relate to the world in a different way, profitably,
Exactly.
and make it a standard. And you can't take that away from him. Absolutely. I mean, Steve Jobs was an asshole. Nobody liked him, but he was
People
a
knew him
visionary.
for being an asshole.
But he made no apologies for it. And he actually, at the end, he died alone, and he regretted, like, maybe the fact that he could have done things a little bit differently. He didn't have to be as hard. But in business, he was definitely an asshole. He did acquire this technology. Apple is steadfast to this day in keeping proprietorship. You don't get the code. He don't care. They don't care if it makes a limited market. To them, they want to be above the market. They
It
are the Apple
the
market. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the only way that they've ever, anytime Apple has made any sort of change to their product, it has been because of litigation. It
hmm
has been because they were forced to.
hmm
They were I think one of the first companies to be genuinely uh charged with like planned obsolescence and fined for it, I think,
hmm
whe- when they found out that they were essentially uh, putting bloat into the code of any of the update software,
hmm
thereby
So
slowing down older models of the phone. So you felt
that
like you
came
had
out with
to,
the burning out of the batteries a couple of
yep,
models back, a couple of years back, right? And
mm-hmm,
then they ended up having to actually issue you better batteries to handle it because they did it to your phone. Your phone was
mm-hmm,
fine until that update, right? Yeah,
yep.
yeah,
And recently
yeah.
with the Apple Store stuff,
hmm
they've been forced to basically allow more third-party software to be accessible to their phones.
hmm hmm But and through that, they had to make a more easier way for third party apps to buy licensing to be able to do it. In other words, you still have to pay Apple and cultivate it to their requirements. But they had to
Mm-hmm.
make it easier. I mean, they were like shutting people down, not even giving them the opportunity. So,
Mm.
you know, I don't blame them. I would want to keep Apple myself. I mean,
It's
it was a
it's
risk that they took because they could have just like pushed themselves out of the market by making themselves unattainable. But what they did was create a need, create a desire, made themselves like the carrot at the end of the stick, and people will trade in those phones, and people do want the latest Apple.
yep.
Um, you know,
I
and
mean,
that was a risk. You have to admit that was a risk because the two different versions were Microsoft or Apple, right?
mm-hmm.
Now both of
Android
them
or
are
yeah.
huge. They're both very successful, but they took different paths. One's
Mm-hmm.
open source, the other one's you're gonna pay me to even look. Like, you know.
You'd be
Um
lucky to even sniff it.
hmm Now Microsoft has issues because of open source, obviously. In
Mm-hmm.
But Apple does too, as far as limiting the market in certain aspects and, you know, making things more expensive to work with it. So,
Mm.
you know, I I don't know. But it's a, you know, so there's a cautionary tale there too. But no doubt that they're not, that they're visionaries. Absolutely. You know,
100%.
yeah. All right. Oh, let's go to the next one before we. Okay. The next one is the unifier. I like this one. This one's like one of my favorite because, you know, soft bear and all leads to the softer side of me. Brings
Yes.
people together under a shared purpose, reduces fear and division through empathy and trust, leads through emotional intelligence and cohesion. And there's two great examples here, and both of them in rights, in empathy to people, which I think is the most relatable way to express a unifier. Nelson Mandela united a fractured nation post apartheid by emphasizing forgiveness and collective identity. It could have went the other way. Could have been a lot of grudge there and a lot of violence and a lot of you know, you shouldn't have did that. But he found a way to say you really can't do that. But we understand and we're going to move forward because unity is more important. You know, uh, getting our nation, healing our nation, and moving forward was more important. So you got to
Mm.
give him a lot of credit for that because this man was in jail for a really long time. They did some shit. They did some shit to him. Um, Martin
Exactly.
Luther King, you know, Jr. Here in America, we all know this story. This story is known all over the world, right? You know this story in New Zealand. He
Yep.
brought together divided communities through a shared vision of justice, using nonviolence and moral clarity to inspire collective action. He welcomed the upper echelon of white politics and rich people and everybody to march with him, side
He
by
has
side.
one of the most famous speeches, I would argue, in history now. I have
Mm-hmm.
a dream. Like,
Mm-hmm.
damn. That was probably one of the most impactful speeches ever.
Mm. When I was in school, we had to learn that speech. It was still then very, very powerful. At the time, it was one of the things that hit the streets was just like, it doesn't matter, color doesn't matter. We're all human. We're all people. We need to emphasize the good in people, and what we see, and rise people up instead of bringing them down. He was amazing at it, and unfortunately lost his life way too soon. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm. Some people just don't like when you're reasonable, huh? Like, I'm just
No, it
not.
seems
Yeah,
being reasonable can be hazardous to one's health.
exactly. I would say, you know, it's unfortunate. It really is. But I think everybody can like see the unifier, um, examples of the unifier like everywhere, you know. But we'll bring up some at the end. You want to take this one?
The role model leads by example through discipline, values, and behavior, inspires respect through integrity and consistency, becomes the living standard for others to follow. Example: Keanu Reeves, admired for his grounded, respectful behavior and personal ethics in in a superficial industry. Now, who there is, I genuinely don't know one person who has a negative thing to say about Keanu Reeves.
How could
He
you? Yeah.
he has been one of the most gen he he has been one of the most genuine people alive. He his the meme that the best way to actually sum up Keanu Reeves is the meme that was created around him. It, you're fabulous. That's it, that was fantastic. Like he someone while he was on stage at an event, um, someone as everyone was cheering, someone yelled out, you're fabulous," and he said, "No, you're fabulous." I I could be misquoting him, but that's yeah, that was the basic
Hmm.
ethos of
He's
what it was.
Yeah, like Mrs. Cassandra said, he's so genuine. He's
Mm.
definitely a genuine spirit. When you hear stories about him, um,
In
it
his life,
in his
like
life, he
all he's
dated an
been through,
older. Yeah,
it was
he
rough.
had a relationship with an older woman. They were committed together. He stayed with her a long time. She died of a horrible disease. And he stayed with her like till the end. He went through all that, heartbroken. Um, he's tried to be taken advantage of in the industry. Um, he is an icon in the industry. I mean, who he's played some of the most. When I say icon, he's played some of the most iconic parts. All there's just two series, and he's done a lot more. He's done a lot more where he shows that he's an excellent actor. He can play anything. But when you think about the Matrix, okay, and that whole series, and then you get into John Wick, and these are iconic characters that are emboldened in our heads like forever, like
Mm-hmm.
for forever. In he can become the character, but he's played so many really great movies. I could watch just about any. He's gone from this, from the the sexy boy toy to the surfer to the intellectual to the wounded, unattainable man to the um. He's played a serial killer. I mean, he's played a killer. He's played a lawyer. What was that one with the devil in it with the um was it wasn't Pacino, it was the other guy.
Oh,
But he played that really well too. Oh my
uh,
god.
Bill
Devil's
and Ted's
Advocate.
Awesome Adventure.
Oh, that's the surfer Dumbo, like that he plays there, the
Yeah, yeah,
football.
yeah.
Yeah, but the one Devil's Advocate or something like that, where he plays like the devil's trying to possess him, and
I don't
work
think
with
I've
him.
seen that
He's a
one.
lawyer. He's a lawyer. I have to find it. Oh, I know he went through grief. He wanted to be a
Mm.
father. Yes. But he just seems to be like a straight up guy. And now when he talks about stuff, was it that was Pacino? Thank you very much, Jin. Do you remember it? Was it the Devil's Advocacy Advocate or something like that? But you know the movie, I'm sure, Jin. Thank you. It was Al Pacino that played the devil. Um,
Mm.
but we have to watch that. You would like that. We have to find it. I have to find it for you. It was intriguing. It was kitschy though, but it was good.
Mm.
But just he plays all these parts, but he does everything genuine. And then when he talks about an issue, you just believe him because he
Mm.
never when he talks about what he believes and what he feels is the right thing to do, he never takes away from the other side their choice, their ability, their opinion. They're entitled to all of that. He just puts it out there that he chooses differently and he thinks this is
Yep.
the better way to go. But he never does it aggressively. He never does it in a demeaning manner. There's never name calling. There's never, oh, look what they did. You know, none of that. None of that. It's like quiet, quiet leader role model that, I just wish more people could be more like him,
You just
you
want to
know.
follow him. That's pretty much it. You just want to
Hmm.
follow him and see what he's gonna do. See how
Hmm.
he see even just see how he lives.
I want to have him to dinner. Like I really do. But I have the feeling I wouldn't want him to leave. Like there's a risk there. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a bit of a risk there. So yeah. Like I just yeah. I could just turn into one of those like really like bunny boiler obsessive people. Like it would be bad. It would be bad. There's
exactly.
just there's nothing negative to say about him.
No.
Seriously. Yeah.
And then we have Barack Obama, led
Oh,
with
sorry.
calm, oop,
Go ahead. Sorry.
led with calm intellect and consistency, modeling ethical leadership and grace under pressure. And that Obama is quite a fascinating person because even though he did lead with calm intellect and consistency and all of those things, he was also very assertive. Um, like he got stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
He a, a lot of his ideas are still surprisingly used today. If I
Mm-hmm.
remember correctly, they've just been renamed essentially.
Pretty much renamed. It's hard to get rid of a good idea, but if you don't want to give somebody credit for it, you just put a different title on it. But
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Well, he's a perfect example also of front in rear leadership. You had no doubt he was in control, but he empowered everybody around him to get it done in such a way that you knew you were part of the team. You felt like you were really valued and contributing, and he got more done this way. Like he didn't
Mm.
have to hands on do everything himself. But you knew he was in control. He's got that quiet, imposing leadership to where he knows his stuff. It's useless to go against him. If he says that's the
Mm.
way it's going to be, you might as well just do it because he's going to convince you. He's got everything. You know, he's thought about it. You look at him and you know he's thought about it. You know he's thought about every angle. You know he's got the facts, the figures, the studies, the ability to change your mind about it. So you better just go. You just
Yep.
better you just go with it. Hmm. Oh, thank you, Jean. Okay. All right. So that's a good example too. Barack Obama is one of my best examples of like how to do a presidency without any real issues, like causing more problems for yourself. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last model is the bold knight, and this one's pretty fun because there are so many bold knights. The bold knight is probably when we think of people that are at the top, leaders, historical figures, celebrities, even people we see in the limelight constantly. There's so many bold knights out there. You just automatically think that they're bold knights, like right away,
And would you agree
basically.
that they're also some of the most volatile types of people?
Hmm. Yeah, controversial, you could even
Mm.
say. Chaotic. I wouldn't want them as personal friends, most of them, to tell you the truth. I don't think I could handle the pressure or the stress of day to day life with that person around. you know, like I just, yeah, but we admire them, you know. We admire them because it's something to strive for. It's something we don't automatically see in ourselves. You know what I'm saying? You know,
Mm.
but so the bold knight charges ahead with fearless energy and visible strength, thrives in high risk moments and confrontations, emboldens others by facing fear head on. We admire these people, but a lot of times we don't know if we would do so well in the chaotic situations that they cause themselves because they thrive in it. That they do. Like
Mm-hmm.
they not only take high risk moments that are already there, but
They
often
create them.
they create them exactly. Um, just so they can show off how fearless they are in handling the situation. I seriously, like they are fearless with energy, and they just jump right in from the frying pan to the fire every damn time. They don't care.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care. They just go head on. And I think we have two perfect examples here. Like it or not, Donald Trump is a bold
Yep.
knight. He thrives on direct confrontation. He causes it, he thrives on it. It's what he lives for. It's his actual communication style. He uses aggressive rhetoric. He commands attention by charging headfirst into controversy without hesitation. And if there's no controversy there, you can be damn sure by the time the conversation over, there is one. Like, he
Like
created one.
it, like his currently, I believe his most famous one is 4 more years,
Oh yes. Hmm.
one more term.
Yeah. Let's concentrate on what you're doing now, dude. Stop
Yeah,
it. Yeah. Okay. Let's just get this right. Okay. Anyway, and then from the book, 50 Cent. I mean, you can't deny he's a bold knight. He takes
hmm
things, challenges head on, turns conflict into power over and over again. Built his empire through fearless moves in both the streets and the boardroom. After he
yep.
left the streets, he took all of that to the music industry, to private enterprise. Like, he doesn't just do music. He's made it so that if one part falls or fails or has trouble, the other ones will pick up. He will always be taken care of and moving forward. Well,
I mean,
I mean,
if we go back to say 2003 or 2007 50, would you
mhm.
ever imagine him being the CEO of a vitamin water company?
No, no, and he
Let
did that.
alone being the
Yeah.
spearhead of that idea and
Hmm.
actually having it be successful?
Yes, Jin. Let's see. Chaotic rhetoric could also be known as incessant lying. It is one of the
Mm-hmm.
modes of causing that. Yes, absolutely. And this is how he causes controversy. Things he has to deal with all the time. It's always swirling around him. Absolutely,
Exactly.
Jin. Yeah. But I mean, he's a bold knight. I mean, it takes a lot of guts to be that kind of asshole. Sorry. It does. It really does.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I just I'm trying to be good, Rick. I am. Yeah.
But no,
Actually,
they are both versions of a bold knight.
hmm definitely, absolutely. Now, of course, we've left quite a few off. There's so many other examples we could use. I'm sure you could all
Oh,
think of them.
just
But
yeah.
yeah, but like, there's certain ones that are just like outright crazy that I don't even want to. Like, I'm being good. I'm being good. So
Yeah.
we okay. So now that we've gone over the front leadership and rear leadership and those points and the four models, Rekkr came up with a great idea to try to pull that together to what we mean, because it is important to stress at this point. Would you agree, Rek, that
Mm-hmm.
everybody has, all the leaders that we can think of, all of the historical figures, people in the spotlight, people that are forging ahead in business, even in our own lives, that person that we look to that kind of takes the matriarch of the family, the one who does all the organizing, somebody at work, your boss, your
The
supervisor,
inspiration, yeah.
inspiration. Everybody has a leadership style front and back, a combination of that, and also a model or a combination of the models. Okay.
Mm.
But there's going to be, when you go to try to put them together, you got to go with the majority of it in why. And then just like, just to try to understand, because understanding someone's leadership type and style puts you in a place, the realism of the situation, to take the opportunity to get your power and to choose what type of mode you're going to take as far as when to be bad or good about it, so that you can take control of the situation and get what you want.
And in general just be a more effective person.
Right. It's
Even if you're
just.
not a leader, just being a more effective person.
Mhm.
Just by essentially embodying even just a fraction of some of these ideas.
Mhm. Recognizing these models in others will give you the keys to actually use all of the other chapters that we've already talked about effectively. It's just another building block to getting your power, to conquering fear in life right now with all the chaotic situations going on around. 2025 is the year of chaos. I'm sorry. Like right now, I can barely breathe every day. There's always something. Point.
Yup.
I woke up the other day to a situation in the world doesn't really affect me as an American right now, but immediately felt fear and pressure that something was going to happen and America's going to have to respond. And I'm talking about India and Pakistan. Doesn't have anything to
Mm-hmm.
do with us right now. But automatically, that's where my brain went. That's the environment we live in now. If it's not Ukraine and Russia, it's here, or it's something that's happening, in the Koreas or anywhere else. Um, you know, Palestine and Israel. Like, just think about it. Just war in general seems to be pressing everywhere. But that's not the only issue. My
Mm.
point being, every day you wake up to something in 2025. We have not had a down day since January 1st. I have not had a down day where nothing gave me pause.
It really feels like nearly every single day something has happened. Something like it feels like there hasn't been a week at all
Mhm.
that hasn't had something crazy happen.
I mean, just think of our conversations for since New Year's. They're the
Mm,
topics are every day are things I would not think that we would be talking about on a regular basis. Seriously,
no.
the stuff that keeps coming up. I mean, I'm just like I said, I, it's just taking me aback every day. There is no down day. So actually, doing this series is helpful because there are so many ways to address that kind of fear in addressing the things that are going on in the world that would be holding me back and making me stagnant and making me not react or do anything about other stuff.
I
Because I'm feeling all of this. Yeah.
would you agree that it's sort of, at least for me, I've found it actually helps me put things into perspective a little bit more,
Hmm.
and to and it's sort of given me a sense of like a better way of processing what's happening and
Hmm.
even of adapting with it.
Yeah. I would agree wholeheartedly because when we had our first discussion in doing this and you brought it to me, I it's one of the things that I was focusing on is that wouldn't this be great to give people the tools to conquer that fear, the fear that
Mm,
holds us all back from the start, whether it be just in life in general or going towards your goals or just in dealing with the media in general right now. Nobody wants to say anything. Nobody wants. I notice the silence in reacting to what's going on because everything is so chaotic. Nobody wants to say anything. Like
mm,
it, we're all feeling a little bit oppressed, a little bit of fear, and we're doing it to ourselves. We need to take charge of that fear, and don't put it on ourselves, And this book has helped me with that because, if I get a little fearful about something, I get quiet and like it's just against my nature. Like if I get quiet for too long, there's going to be an explosion. And who wants that? Like who wants
mm,
that? That's out of control. That's going to be I'll be saying things I don't even want to say, like not necessarily. Like getting your power back helps you quiet the fear and deal with things better for you and better for everybody else around you. You know,
exactly.
just advocate for getting our power back every chance that we get, and that's what this book
And
is
that's
basically all
including in
about.
times where things feel out of control.
Hmm.
Like I'm going from this chapter. What I take away from this chapter is, I mean, it's a pervasive idea that's throughout this book, but like you really do need to find ways of turning any situation that you're in, good or bad, or particularly bad, into some kind of positive. It's it's like it's a mindset that seems to be almost a must nowadays, that we need to think of a way of turning whatever negative situation that we might be in, whether it's financial, social, um, just day to day living, into some sort of, at least give yourself the impression that you're moving forward, that you're making progress.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Mm. And I think it is definitely going to be a very it is a dominant theme in this book is
Yeah.
is to utilize any situation that you're in to your advantage, encouraging you to be the bold knight, to reverse perspectives, to play, to be the role model, to actually embody who you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, even as a unifier, like it's even if the thing is, you don't actually even need to be the leader of other people to be a leader. You can
Mm-hmm.
simply just be the leader of yourself.
Right.
Encourage yourself to be just a visionary to yourself.
Think of it as the leader of the situation, taking control,
Mm.
like being at the head of it. Yeah, that actually makes really good sense in when we're looking at it that way. Well, we from YouTube just by name. You're right with that, Mrs. Cassandra. You're right. And this book is helping me be a better YouTuber, actually, believe it or not. Well,
Mm.
speaking of YouTubers, shall we get to our perfect examples? Like when we were talking about how do you
The
hammer this
perfect
home?
imperfect people.
The perfect imperfect people. Are you guys ready? Like, we're gonna blow your minds here a little bit. So Rekkr and I were talking, and we watch a lot of YouTube together, and we have these outrageous, beautifully constructed conversations about stuff that happens all over the world and everywhere. I'd have to say, when it comes to having a discussion about anything going on, I'm glad that Rekkr and I's conversations aren't taped.
Mm-hmm.
Just yeah, because he often gets my first impression of something, which may not be politically correct or the best way to express to the public how I feel about something.
There
Um,
are, yeah.
but I mean, usually the kernel of the idea, the gist of it is in there, right, Rick? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I nailed the idea.
Sometimes a good idea comes from the worst
Chaos.
thoughts.
Exactly. It,
Like
yeah.
you, and it's not the thoughts, and it's often the thoughts that people will latch on to, and you see that with people on YouTube who
Mhm.
say something that's so out of pocket that it's like, whoa, why did they say that? Until
Mhm.
you actually, and it it gives a lot of people the opportunity to take it and completely change
Mhm.
what it means, take it out of context or
Mhm.
manipulate it to seem like something else. But
Ex-
it's the overarching idea that
mhm.
is the important thing, and
And that is what. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
uh, and a lot of that comes from having difficult conversations, having
Mhm.
having taboo conversations
Mhm.
that you feel like everyone has conversations with someone that you'd never have a conversation out in the open. Like everyone, let's be honest, every single,
Mhm.
I'm sure anyone can think of one thing
Mhm.
or another that they've thought or said that you've said to someone who's close to you that you're like, if I said this,
Anywhere
it would
else.
be completely taken out of context and I would get absolutely butchered for it.
Exactly, because like you gotta have that trust. Well, not everybody's like me either that wants to take the bulls by the horn. I thrive on those conversations. I want them out here. Like that was
Mm,
my goal in bringing my channel, is to talk about the things people shy away from and give everybody a voice about it and try to understand from each other's perspective, not to shut anybody down. Like I have strong
mm,
opinions about stuff. Everybody knows that, but I still want to hear the other side. I want to have the conversations. Okay, I want to be able to lay these things out. Not telling people how to think about it. Not telling people, you know, this is the right way or the wrong way. Maybe I will, and absolutely I will. Everybody knows my personality. You can't help but know my opinion of it, okay? Because I'm gonna weigh in, but I want to give space for everybody else too, because I think those difficult conversations about the crap that's going on that is so divisive, especially now in our environment, and it scares the hell out of me, Rekkr, and you know it does, because I don't want to actually get viscerated in public, and I don't
Mm.
actually want to start a conversation that people are just going to go, how dare you even talk about it? But I will. Like, I do feel it's important. I that's
Mm.
in me. That's part of who I am out here. That's the bear. The bear wants to talk about it. The bear
Mm.
knows that it needs to be talked about, that this divisive nature of everything is never going to come somewhere in the middle if we don't all start talking about it. Now, do I think talking about it solves things? No, but it's a start. It's a
Mm.
start. It's a start of understanding. It's a start of getting the reality of the situation, the big picture. It's a start of understanding both sides of it so that you can clearly do something about something. It is not the solution, but it damn well is the start. It is moving forward. Like it's starting those conversations. I mean, as you can
And
tell, I'm
it helps
passionate
to
about it.
bolster
Yeah.
it helps to bolster your what you might already have as an understanding of something. Like if you're
Mm-hmm.
against something, just being able to understand what someone who would disagree with you thinks and how they actually have that idea
Mm-hmm.
gives you more power to be able to say, well, I I hear what you're saying, but there's kind of this and this problem, and it's kind of really
Right.
problematic.
It
Um,
reinforcing your own stance on an issue by
yeah.
understanding opposition is key.
Mm.
It can actually soften your opinion, it can add to it, okay, but it can also reassure you because you're open to actually being challenged about it, which makes you relook at it with additional information and come to a more solid opinion about it at whole. It could stay the same, it could alter a little bit, but it's important to always keep taking that information in, not
Mm-hmm.
to be an echo chamber, not to lock yourself out, you know. Your
Mm.
argument shouldn't live in a box with a lid. That's what I say all the time. Like your argument for a situation, when I mean your argument, I mean like, you know, debating terms, like your foundation of why you believe what you believe and how you prove it. Okay. In that box should not have a lid on it because you need a way to allow all the other stuff to come in to challenge it for it to
Steel
stay
sharpens
solid,
steel.
you know. Yeah, because otherwise that box isn't going to be a box anymore, you know what I mean? To stay solid as a box of all those ideas, you need to leave the lid off so that it can keep breathing and growing. That's
Mm-hmm.
how I look at it anyway. Well, let's get to our fun idea here, because when we were looking at this, we thought of two of the biggest YouTubers and Twitchers out there. These people we could never even aspire to have anything to do. They live in a different reality. They're in a different world as far as where we're coming from with
Mm.
YouTube and Twitch. Would you say? Well,
We are specks of dust to
we
them.
are, yeah, we are dusts in both of their environments, so to speak. But we're going to speak on them anyway. Like they're going to have to deal with it because we've looked at the situation in this chapter of leadership models and everything, and we said what's relatable to us. Well, for us, we both looked to the two YouTubers we're going to talk about here as examples of how to pull this together, because they're out there. Everybody knows who they are. If you don't, I apologize. But I was of the opinion that everybody would know who these two people are. But Osmond Gold, okay, for me fits the mold of the role model. It, people are going to say, what,
And
have you seen his house,
we
girl?
we
Sit
don't yeah
down. And
we
like,
don't
no,
mean
no,
like
stop.
yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's, let me finish before you beat me up with the roaches and the dirty dishes and his freaking lack of showering or whatever you want to talk
And
about, his
lack of
personal,
teeth.
whatever. It's not about that. Wait, just wait, just wait. I actually have a good point here. Don't kill me first. Kill me later if you need to. But as a role model leader, taking that out of it, I do believe he is a role model. He really does fit the role model with elements of front leadership. This man streams 8 hours a day, either talking or gaming. He's out front with himself, being himself constantly. I mean, he's in it. There's no doubt when it comes to the platforms that Asmongold is in it, right? He's out
unapologetically authentic.
right. And that's why I think this fits. He leads by example through raw authenticity. You said it right there. Unapologetically genuine. And consistency. He's gonna be there. If something comes up, he's gonna have something to say about it. He's consistent. He's very consistent. He doesn't curate a perfect image. We've seen his house.
No,
he's honest about his teeth, his hygiene, his mental health, his ability to do things, what he cares about, what he doesn't care about, what's important to him, what's not. He's very honest about who he is. And it doesn't bother him when people pick on him. I think it does a little, and he's admitted it's been hard at times, but he's not going to apologize for who he is. He is what he is. He has it is what it is. Take it or leave it. Like, he doesn't feel the need to do anything about it. When he felt like cleaning his house, he did, right? He did. He did a damn good job. The kitchen is clean now. I mean, people. I've seen the sink.
Oh, you mean that cleaning it? Yeah.
Yeah, that. Yeah.
Now he's going to be getting it.
He just fell through the roof of his house and made a whole other issue. But like the fact that, well, here's the thing. The progress is the fact that he got up, went into the attic because he thought there was a dead animal. That's progress right there. Because was a time in his life that he would just smelled it day in and day out. And
I believe he used a rat as an alarm clock.
Yes, he did. And the freaking could mark time by the boogers on the wall, the bloody boogers. Oh my God. Never mind. Yeah, I can't. I'm aware, people. You could hear by the conversation, I'm aware of the issues of calling Asmongold a role model. However, he is. For leadership, he is. He's not advocating for you to have a filthy house. Okay, no.
He's not advocating for you to live like how he lives.
But he is advocating for being your genuine self unapologetically, for being in it. If you're going to talk about it, think about it, and know what's going on and explore it. Okay, he shows up as himself, drawing a loyal, engaged community that respects his honesty and dedication. They make fun of him. Yes, they do, but they respect that he puts it out there. They're dedicated to the fact that they know with consistency, he's always going to be honest with you about where he's coming from. Okay. And the reason I feel that he expresses front leadership is because he's visibly present. He streams 8 hours a day. He puts himself in it. He's outspoken. He's not afraid to touch subjects. He talks about racism and transgender issues in DEI and political content without being political. He'll talk about political content without being racist. He can talk about racist issues. I mean, he can bring it out and he'll say, this, that, or the other thing. He gets called a lot of things. But I don't think he wears those labels. If you actually listen to him, he's not. He's almost every time I've listened to him, he's doing both sides of the argument for you.
And he also goes to the point where he even tries to explain what the mentality of the person who might have your opposite opinion, why they might have that opposite opinion. And a lot of the time he's been right.
I have to say, I actually have to admire him for doing what I want to do on YouTube. He's having the conversations. They may not be pleasant. They may be sometimes like a 14-year-old boy, and I want to smack him in the head for thinking he's a misogynist. And then I have to realize he's actually not. He's just being funny. He's relating to how he grew up. He talks about things he did in his past as a kid. But do I actually think he's a misogynist? No, I don't. Does he say a lot of stupid misogynistic shit? Yes, he does. Okay. Two things could be true at once. He can act
Yep.
like an ass and not actually be a misogynist, okay? Like, it's true. Because I actually do think he has a good respect for women as human beings. He has a good respect for human beings in general. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
saves his ass from all the stupid rhetoric, in my opinion. That's
Mm.
what moved me to being, I wouldn't call myself a fan because I do often criticize him, but I think I can be a fan and still criticize him. So yeah, I would say I was a fan. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's what moved me from the, oh my God. What's the first thing I said when you said, did you see this Osmond video? Like almost 3 years ago, like 2.5 years ago. Did you
I
see this
think you
Osmond
nearly
video?
had a heart
I'm like,
attack.
you fucking watch Osmond. Why am I talking to you? I think that was the exact statement. Why the hell do I talk to you?
Yep.
I was such a judgy asshole about it, was I not? And you were like, wait,
Absolutely.
could you just watch this 7 minutes of this clip and just tell me what you think? And I did, and it changed. Everything changed because I had to look at things a little bit differently. Because I respected, we had already had conversations that I respected your opinion. I'm like, why would he be watching Osmond Gold? Like, why? Like, it just blew my mind. But now I
Mm-hmm.
understand. You can definitely get both sides of the story, like when you listen to him, and you
Mm.
are going to get his opinion about something, but you're not going to not get the other side either.
Mm.
And he often has real takes that people don't want to admit, that everybody's thinking, but they don't want to say because they don't want the tomatoes thrown at them. And he wears tomatoes well.
Mm-hmm.
He's willing to take the hit because he thinks it's obvious. And he actually often will say he doesn't understand why people just don't say it. Like, get it out there. Let's deal with it. Let's change it. Just say it. You know.
Mm.
He definitely outspoken, active in live environments, reacting to drama, trends, and game in real time. He sets tone and culture directly through his presence and unfiltered, and there's the word there, unfiltered engagement. Thanks for the tomatoes, Mrs. C. We're getting tomatoes. Now, if you think me being an Osmond fan, an Osmond Gold fan is shocking, or using him as an example, with Rekkr, like Rekkr did not know, Rekkr's idea was to use the YouTubers. He didn't know I was going to glorify Osmond Gold like this. He had no idea. Would I actually suspect you thought I'd do the opposite?
Yeah, yeah. You really Five Nights at Freddy'd me.
I did. Did I? I jump. Is that the jump scare? Yeah, that's the jump scare people, isn't it? Okay.
Yep.
Well, then get ready, because are you sitting down? Because
I
this
hope
one.
so.
Okay. Well, this is the other guy we talked about. Yes. Yeah. I'm gonna. You know what? So that I don't bias the conversation, I'm gonna let you read this one.
Okay. Hassan Hassan Arabi fits the mold of a unifier leader type with elements of rear leadership. Hassan is a unifier because he relies largely ideal he relies
He rallies.
he
That's where the
rallies
problem is.
I don't know
Yeah.
why that word was not coming out of my mouth. He rallies a large ideologically aligned community through shared political forward driven ideas and cultural values, using solidarity and social identity to build loyalty. But sometimes that unity is weaponized against dissent. He leads from the back by leveraging influence, often letting others take the front line in conflicts while he maintains public distance, shaping narratives and tone from behind the scenes.
Yes, he does. He does. Um, you're right, Mrs. Cassandra, and I really don't care. Like, I'm not a fan of Hassan Abi. I think most of the world would know that. And this
Mm-hmm.
is why. Well, but there's no denying that he's not out there as a YouTube front runner. He is number two to Osmond's number one out there in regards to commentary, comment about politics and what's going on in the world now. Now, there are other YouTubers that are bigger, but we're picking YouTubers that are talking on the issues of today, that are
Mm.
dealing in realism of what it is right now that's going on all over the world. that was the focus, just so that you know, because we're using the book of realism in
Mm-hmm.
broad focus and perspective. So these two definitely, in our opinion, right, Rekkr? I don't want to speak for you,
Mm-hmm.
but in our opinion, they represented two big figures in this multi-platform, because they're on Twitch, they're on YouTube, they're everywhere. They're all on X right now, having an epic battle with somebody else doing the battle for them with their quotes back and forth. It's actually brilliant. But
Yup.
it's like they speak on each other regularly. They agree or disagree, but they're both right in the mix of it, politically, culturally, what's going on. They talk about gaming, everything. Okay, Hassan, a little more politics. He forgive me. No, don't forgive me. I don't really care. Hassan's like that still thinks he's in college, being like one of those advocates for everything because he doesn't have to have a real job. Shit. Like, sorry, not sorry, but he's that kind of political commentator. He's like a protester at heart. He's like, he's gonna go for the underdog. He's like, gets his cause that he goes for with like great gusto. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the way he does it really gets to me because I feel like it's a bit grifty. I also don't like the way, well, he runs away from issues instead of dealing with them. He's all out there front, like he's not a front leader because he can't take the stuff that comes back. A true front leader is out there, whatever comes, you know.
Mm.
Hassan puts himself as a real leader because although he does a lot of leadership stuff, he doesn't take accountability for crap most of the time. He has other people's doing his dirty work. There are words that I can't use on YouTube to describe it. Like, how do you say?
Mm.
Cowardly, I guess, maybe. I don't know. I don't want to be that harsh, but I don't
No.
appreciate it because even if he has good ideas and he stands for them, great. Great,
Mm-hmm.
stand for it. Two things can be true at the same time.
Exactly.
Can I admire Hassan for his support of the Palestinian people? Let's be clear about what I said. Palestinian people. Yes, I can. It's a good cause. Something terrible's happening to them. Can I also think he's being a little disingenuous, kind of grifty, and getting on like a hot topic for gain and clicks and views? And I don't really actually believe it when he says he supports terrorism. I think he's an asshole for it. I think he's promoting violence. I think it's stupid. Yeah, I think you can support the Palestinian people and not think Hamas is great, because they're not. They're a terroristic
Exactly.
group. And the fact that Hassan Arabi will not actually admit that they are terrorists, and it's not good to be a terrorist. Okay, let's get that straight. Okay, terrorist bad. Okay.
It's kind of in the name. Just if you hadn't figured it out,
Yeah.
it's sort of in the name. You just got to
Yes.
read in between the lines.
Exactly. And when he gets called out for like having a terrorist on his channel and then saying he loves him, that he's a great person and everything like that, and not admit that the kid is a terrorist, even when the kid identifies himself as a terrorist, says he's a terrorist, and actually on his channel it was like death to all Americans.
And I believe he actually introduced that kid as a terrorist, and now he's trying to walk it back.
Like, that kid, that's just a kid who grew up in a harsh environment. I'm like, dude, like, just take like a dose of reality. Please read 50th Law, Hassan Arabi. Please read the 50th Law. Yes, please. Watch our show. You might learn something.
I actually worry if he did.
So serious. But I have to give him credit for him being a leader at all, because he is out here on the socials. And he does unify a whole group of people about the Palestinian cause, right or wrong. Some of them are freaking degenerates. Yes, I said it. Sorry. I don't mean to bring you any heat, Rek, but I can't praise them all. Some of them are just degenerates. Well, he is able to unify that and use it to build solidarity. People have a place to talk about this issue, and he does that
Mm-hmm.
But does he use it to weaponize? Absolutely, I feel he does. That sentence is not Rekkr, that's me. But sometimes that unity is weaponized against the same. That's me. I'll put that there on purpose. I don't want Rekkr to get heat for it. I do think that that's what he does. I do. I do. Um, but that's it. Hey, Pete. Good to see you. Terrorists are bad. Absolutely. And this guy won't admit it. All right. So we're at the 2 hour mark. I should finish up. But anyway, Beck, I hope I didn't kill you with that one.
No.
Okay.
I think I'm still in one piece.
Okay. And I hope, and please, you shoot the person who said it, not the person sitting next to me. Like, if he said it, fine. I'll take full responsibility, But um the last part of the chapter, as always, is the reversal of perspectives. And I'm just going to read it straight from there, like I've done every time. And it kind of pulls everything together. I do hope you all enjoyed our examples. And we are open, aren't we, Rekkr, for questions, comments,
Mm-hmm.
pro or con on the back of the video in the comment section. Use it, please. It does help the algorithm. And I have a sneaky suspicion we're going to need a lot of help with this video with the algorithm.
If depending on who sees it, I think
So if you could do those YouTubey things, or at least leave us a comment so people know that somebody is watching it before it gets
this
buried.
might end up being our biggest video for either the best or worst reasons.
I don't know. And we didn't do it for that purpose. They just are
No.
perfect examples. I mean, and I've seen both their content. Okay. So don't kill me. I do watch your stuff, guys. Like, just
Mm-hmm.
give me a little bit of grace. I'm not talking out of hat here. All right. So reversal of perspective. We live in times of great mistrust of any form of authority. Some of this springs from envy of those who have power and have achieved something. Some of it comes from experiences with people who abuse their position of power to get their way. In any event, such distrust makes it harder and harder to be a strong and effective leader. Under the sway of this leveling force, you yourself might be tempted to act with less authority, to be more like everyone else, or to make yourself likable. This will only make your job that much harder. Instead, it is better that you see the whole concept of authority in a different light. The word authority comes from the Latin word autore, meaning author, a person who creates something new. This could be a work of art, a new way of operating in the world, or new values. The health of any society depends on those who infuse it with such innovations. These works or actions by individuals give them credibility and authority to do more. The great Roman general Scipio Africanus the Elder invented a whole new style of warfare in the campaign against Hannibal that was tremendously successful. This gave him the authority to lead the campaign itself and later to launch a political career. For the Romans, if you simply acted as if your position entitled you to certain powers, you lost your authority. You were no longer an author, a contributor, but a passive consumer of power. As a leader, this is how you must view yourself as well. You are an author creating a new order, writing a new act in some drama. You never rest on your laurels or past achievements. Instead, you are constantly taking action that moves the group forward and brings positive results. That record speaks for itself. Despite the spirit of the times, people have a secret yearning to be guided by a firm hand, by someone who knows where they are going. It is distressful to always feel distracted and wandering. The members of your group will give you the respect and authority you require if you earn it as an author and creator. In the end, if people mistrust and resist your authority, you really only have yourself to blame. Eek. On that, do you want to read the quote?
Yep. A distinguished commander without boldness is unthinkable. No man who is not bold can play such a role, and therefore we consider this quality the first prerequisite of the great military leader. How much of this quality remains by the time he reaches senior rank, after training and experience have affected and modified it, is another question. The greater the extent to which it is retained, the greater the range of his genius. Karl von Clausewitz.
Yep.
Clausewitz.
Clausewitz. Yep.
Clausewitz.
Awesome. Okay. That pretty much is the whole chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Jin. Jin says someone who knows where they're going. That puts 47 out in the cold. Okay. Okay. All right. But anyway, when they talk about leader, you don't necessarily need to be in charge of a whole group. You don't need to be. Enjoy the fight, Pete. Thank you for being here. He wants to go watch the UFC. Thank you for stopping by. Let me know what you think about it later. Hit the back of the comment section or send me an email. I appreciate your opinion. But to be a leader, you could be a leader in your family, you could be a leader in your social group. You could just be a leader of your own life. Let's just be simple about it. These leadership roles and styles could just be you in general moving through the world. What do you think?
Exactly.
Oh, okay. I thought I lost you. I was like, there, she blew it now. I'm out.
No.
But
No,
hey,
it's true.
yeah.
It goes. Some of it goes back to if you can't look after yourself, then you can't look after anyone else. Being the
Mhm.
leader of yourself first is probably should be highest on your list of priorities. At least that's how I see it.
No, it's how I see it too. Being able to assume a leadership role, or at least knowing what you would do if you had to,
Mm,
and being flexible enough to change the styles based on the situation and what's necessary. Um, it goes with all the steps in the book. I can't say. It's just like I'm learning as we go. I mean, I've read the book through, but each time we concentrate on a separate chapter, I just find more and more tools that relate to like just every day, in all kinds of situations. So I'm finding it quite beneficial.
mm.
No, I can see that might be a problem. I can understand that.
Jen's
Well,
fault. He mentioned mayhem.
I know there's always a little bit of mayhem in our chat always. And
Wouldn't be clear if it wasn't.
yes, it just follows us everywhere, especially if Mrs. Cassandra shows up, like in some of my fans. But on that, do you have any last statements you'd like to make in regards to the chapter, or if anybody has any questions in the chat in regards to the book for chapter 6, what we just covered? And if you can't think of it now, please hit the back in the comment section on the video. Um,
Yes.
we'd appreciate it. Well,
Any questions are welcomed. We really mean it when we say there is no such thing as a dumb question in this case. Just ask.
no, there are no dumb questions in any case. Like, ask the questions. That's how you get the information to be informed. Like, seriously.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to know stuff to ask stuff. Seriously.
Exactly.
Yeah. As long as it's like on the topic. And if you have comments about the series, we want to hear that too. I'm enjoying doing this.
I am
Exactly.
too.
What is a dumb question? There are none.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're really on chapter 6 already. We're going to do chapter 7
We're up to
next
chapter
Saturday.
7 now,
Yeah,
which
next
is
Saturday.
called Know Your Environment from the Inside Out. Connection.
Ooh. Connection. Mrs. Cassandra will be here for that and run mayhem in the chat, I'm sure. There we go.
Mm.
Mipit, I'm glad you got to catch it. Hope you get to catch the rerun, and I hope that some of you that weren't here for the live discussion, if you have comments, put them on the video. And thank you for the replay. And we look forward to hearing from everybody. Well, like it or not, we'll be back next week, barring any unforeseen circumstances to the channel based on the content of this particular video. we're just, we're just. I'm already getting warnings in the chat that I'm going to get taken down. I don't think so. Do you think so? I don't know.
Que será, será.
Yes. Okay, so hey, I stand behind it. I mean, I'm not trying to hurt anybody. It's relative to the subject as far as I was concerned. Well, anyway, have a good night, everybody. We hope to see you next week. And for those of you that are fans, sorry, Rick, just going to do a little channel promo here. Tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. on a Sunday morning, we're doing Black Mirror, episode 2, Verenois with Culture Cats. He's in the UK, so I had to get up early, but why not? It should be a great episode. If you're a fan of Charlie Brooker or the series, I hope to see you there. If you can't be there that early in the morning, I understand. Who wants to get up that early on a Sunday? At least catch the replay and let us know what you think. Anyway, we'll see you next week. Same time, 6 o'clock. Saturday, if you're in America. Sunday, if you're on the other hemisphere, in Australia, in New Zealand. It would be 9:30 in the morning. Mrs. C, that's 6:30 a.m. for you. I'm sorry your hand hurts there, Stephen. And I'm sorry you've had such difficulty. I really am. Well, all right. On that, shall we cut it?
I think so.
All right, everybody. See you all soon.
See ya.